Today we're going to start by reviewing sine and cosine equations in your packet on page 5. The first thing I want to make note of on the top here is what the sine parent and the cosine parent graphs look like. Let's sister focus here, please. Okay, so remember sine starts, ends, and in the middle is on the sinusoidal and then goes up and down the amplitude. Okay, that's sine. Cosine starts and ends at the amplitude, and the middle goes down the amplitude. So those are the shapes that we're looking for to write equations on our graph. If I go to number 1, the first thing I like to highlight is the sinusoidal, that midline on our graph. And then I'm going to cut off a section of sine. It could be a positive sign, so up and then down, or a negative sign, down and then up. I like to pick one that's closest to the y-axis, so there's less of a phase shift. So I see one, it starts here, goes up and then down, so it ends here. So I'm going to use that function to figure out all of the information. So first, parent, this could be a sine or cosine graph. The amplitude, it goes up and down, it says 3 each time. The period is the length from the beginning to the end. Well, if you notice, every 2 lines is 3 pi. So 1, 2, that's 3 pi. 1, 2, that's 6 pi. The formula for finding period is 2 pi over b. Our 2 pi over b needs to equal 6 pi. That's going to make b 1/3. Okay, so we need a phase shift for sine and a phase shift for cosine. For sine, the one we boxed off, it went to the right halfway between 0 and 3. So we went to the right, that's going to be half of 3, so 3 pi over 2. Now we need to figure out what cosine we're going to be looking at. So remember, cosine goes from the maxes to the mins. Well, on the y-axis, it starts at a min. So in order to avoid a phase shift, I'm going to start there and on the next min. So my cosine that I chose is not going to have a phase shift, but I need to remember that my graph is going to be negative. If you wanted to pick a positive cosine, you might have picked here and here, and then you would have had a phase shift to the right 3 pi. The vertical slide is where the sinusoidal is. She's on 0. And now we're ready to write our equations. So I'll do sine first. So amplitude is 3, sine, b is 1/3, parentheses theta. We went to the right 3 pi over 2, so minus 3 pi over 2. And there was no vertical slide. For cosine, y equals, remember we have negative, so negative 3 cosine 1/3, and then we don't have a phase shift, so I'm just putting theta. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do, which one do I want to do? We'll keep going. Let's do number 2. Okay, so first I'm going to find my sinusoidal. It looks like she's still on 0 there. And then I'm going to box off a sine. Here's the y-axis. And so I see a sine directly on the y-axis. It's just negative. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and plot the 2 points I'm going to use for cosine as well. Okay, so this could be sine or cosine. We're going to do both. The amplitude, it shows us, is 4. The period, so we go from 0 to 4 pi. So the period's 4 pi. Using that same formula, 2 pi over b has to equal 4 pi. So b is 1/2. Okay, phase shift for sine, phase shift for cosine. Sine starts on 0, so there is no phase shift, but remember ours is negative because it decreases first, and the parent sine increases first. For cosine, I started over here to the left, and we have to figure out what it counts by. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines are 2 pi. If this is just 3 lines, then that's just 1 pi. So it's to the left, pi. Vertical slide, we're still on that 0, so no vertical slide. All right, let's write sine. So y equals, remember our sine is negative. Amplitude is 4. B is 1/2. Our sine did not have a phase shift, so just theta. For cosine, our cosine is positive because we started at a max. So 4 cosine 1/2. Use parentheses because we have a phase shift to the left, so I'm going to put plus pi. Let's do one more together, and then I'll let y'all keep 4 for you to practice on your own. All right. So first, number 3, I'm going to figure out where my sinusoidal is. It's kind of hard for me to tell, so I like to count. So from the bottom to the top is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Half of 6 is 3. So 1, 2, 3. I guess I could have seen that right there. LOL. All right, let me pick a section for sine. I see it starts right here, up and then down. And then for cosine, I don't see 2 maxes, but I do see 2 mins. So we'll just have to do a negative cosine for this one. Parent is either sine or cosine. Amplitude up, what does it count by? 1, 2, okay. 1, 2, 3. Period. So let's see. 1, 2, 3 is a half. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my gosh. So 1, 2, 3 lines to a half. That means each line is a sixth. So 1, 2, 3, 4 sixths. That's going to be 2/3 is the period. 2 pi over 3. Well, normally it's 2 pi over b, so that means b is 3. My phase shift for sine is to the right one line, so to the right, pi over 6. My phase shift for cosine starts on 0, so there is no phase shift, but remember it's negative because we started at a minimum. Vertical slide, we went down 1. Okay, let's do sine first. It doesn't matter which one you do first or second. Y equals 3 sine, b is 3. Theta, it was to the right pi over 6, so minus pi over 6, and then down 1. For cosine, remember it's negative 3 cosine 3. There is no phase shift, so I don't need parentheses, but minus 1 for the vertical slide. And that's writing equations.